The 1996 Constitution has been interpreted by top government officials and other stakeholders as the panacea in terms of reuniting the country and also putting an end to the ongoing Anglophone crisis, which has been on since 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2021, 2022, and looming to move to 2023 if care is not taken as far as conflict is concerned. However, faced with Boko Haram insurgency in the northern part of the country, the Seleka rebel in the eastern part of the country, with rising prices of basic commodities across the nations and Cameroonians agitating with the mobile money tax that was instituted by the government, a lot is being said about the 1996 Constitution, taking cognizance of the fact that some political stakeholders have been jailed in Yaoundé, in which others say they were against the constitution of the country and thus should pay the price, while others state that the 1990 law, which liberalized and gave freedom of speech and expression, gave them the autonomy, gave them the powers and of course the legitimacy to speak, as far as that law grants freedom of speech and expression and also freedom of association is concerned. Whether they are right or wrong, it is not my place as a journalist to determine that. That is why we have experts to look into the constitution and tell us what lies the fate of the 1996 Constitution. Looking at the current state of Cameroon now, is the Constitution still relevant or obsolete? Is there more that should be done as far as that is concerned? This is House of Commons with me, Tah Mai Javis. It is a Sunday not happy to the people across Ukraine and also to the people in Russia, and also a Sunday not happy to the people of Northwest and Southwest region, and also a Sunday not happy with so many Cameroonians who are unable to put food on their table, and also a Sunday not happy with those who are afflicted and those who feel the pain of the instituted mobile money tax that many political stakeholders, senators, MPs are yet to explain the importance of this tax to their constituency as they are stuck in Yaoundé or dealing with their individual business as usual. It is a constitutional right of the people of Northwest and Southwest region to have their MPs, senators come to their different constituency and explain what the mobile money tax is and how impactful it's going to be on their lives. But yet the people are caught to do a gambling, what is locally called Tumbu Boss Kalaba, to know whether it's right or wrong to them. The common man is paying the price. On today's edition of our program, we have a senior, Barrister, I begin by Senior Barrister Ashu, who is here with us, and also we have Dr. Ako John. We also have Dr. Tabet. I begin by you, Dr. Ako John Ako. Happy Sunday and welcome to My Media Prime.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Once more, we are about to talk Cameroon and issues affecting equally Africa and the world at large, especially so disturbing instances in Ukraine and Russian aggressive character within the region. After 8 years, Russia again taking on Ukraine after the lost region of Crimea and declaration of independence on Lugansk and Donetsk. It is equally a pity for international diplomacy, where the big guys, the international actors like the United States, Germany, and many others realize now that they have been pastoring and doing evangelism of more economic sanction on Russia. Is this capable of bringing Russia back to the table? If not, then I believe very strongly that there is a need for Russia to have a sense of concern that the world is in need of peace. The world is in need of friends. The world is supposed to be a moderate place where each and every one should have his own part of the essay, and equally that independent nations have a right to what they think is good for them, that the Ukrainian people are a sovereign state, but then Vladimir Putin keep on insisting that the state of Ukraine cannot do anything behind his backyard without authorization from Kremlin. Is it equally that sovereignty is not absolute? Then it becomes a relative act in the fact that Vladimir Putin still have nerves that the impact of the Cold War and the agreement that were made in Minsk have not been respected by the Western boys. Does that justify his attack on Ukrainian people? Is there any danger? Does Ukraine in any aspect really pose a threat to to Russia. That those are the things we're expecting, and we have not seen any. There is no threat, no material, no weapon of mass destruction like Russia might have possessed. A lot of those chemical weapons now he moved to brandish as Santan 2. Will Russia really succeed in Ukraine, or will Russia be humiliated? I believe and I think that if it ends without the intervention of foreign powers, then we might find a Russian leader going back home with his tail between his legs, because he thought of what was going to happen, that Ukraine will be supported by a lot of those we think are members and friends to the Ukrainian people. We are adopting diplomacy, and we think that there's still time to talk. The Russian people too are recognizing in the state of St. Petersburg that the war was not necessary, and that they don't need war within this particular time. Russia needs a lot of things to take care home with. Human rights situation, the opposition leaders being muscled. Is it a reason for you to attack another nation? It is equally a shock. I'm telling you that I personally think Vladimir Putin needs a second thought. He might have been created a monster for himself, a monster economically that will have serious consequences on companies and other associates or partners to the Russian people.
Okay, and also Dr. Dr. Ayong Tah is here with us. Doctor, you are from the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. We want to thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much. I will prefer you use the title Seseko.
Seseko.
Yeah, always add that one because it is more, yeah, it's more merited.
Okay, Seseko, Ayong Tah, you're welcome to the program.
Yeah, Doctor can come. You know, as a traditionalist, I will always prefer that title because it's very challenging. So thanks for inviting me, Javis. It's a pleasure to be here again today to discuss on very pertinent issues concerning our lovely country, Cameroon. And as you rightly invited me on the issue on the Constitution of Cameroon, I hope we are going to make useful contributions this afternoon so that the powers that be and even our millions of televiewers out there will be able to gain something at the end of the program. You know, just like Dr. Ako was talking about, I get so worried the way I've seen Africans so concerned with the issue that is happening in between Russia and Ukraine, though not him in particular because he has been very vocal on the problems of Africa. But when you go to many platforms, WhatsApp groups and all of that, you see so much talking about Ukraine and the Russian issue as to say they have forgotten that Africa has been the core of problems in the world. You know, our own is even worse because it is more internal conflicts or internal armed conflicts which could be easily managed politically. We are not capable to do that. And then now that some other countries are copying the bad example from Africa, especially the 21st century, it has become a topical issue. Cameroonians themselves, even those who had not said anything useful concerning the armed conflict going on in Cameroon, you know, they have embarked on the Ukraine issue and they are giving lessons, you know, to the powers that be, as if they don't know that people are dying in their own country for a political issue that could just be discussed on a table and solutions are given. Even now, as we are speaking, they are talking Ukraine, people are dying in the northwest and southwest. Others have been kidnapped. They are still there, not yet seen. For example, the one of the funds in the northwest region, the
president of the Northwest House of Chiefs.
Chiefs of, yes, such a personality, a first-class chief, if not mistaken. The delegates that got missing in India, 5 top officials of that division, nothing is being said about them. Not to talk of the children who have been killed, not to talk of the many homeless and the many others here in Douala and Yaoundé who are languishing in poverty. Not to talk of those of us from these 2 regions who are endlessly spending monthly our little monthly salaries to give assistance back home, either for food, either for medical.
And the mobile money tax.
The mobile money tax, to me, is just another proof to show that the government is crashing. You know, when you embark on non-profitable or we can call it, non-profitable ventures in the state or in the country, like a war, and when you don't have control over your currency, the tendency is that you fall short of finances, and you have to look for alternative means to raise that money. Not to forget the fact that we are also a heavily indebted country. You know, so with all of these things put in place, the mismanagement, of course, at the level of state resources, the corruption and embezzlement issues that are there, they have managed it for a very long period. And it has gotten to a point where they need to look for alternative ways to maybe be, financing the loans and at the same time keep managing the state machinery. With all of those things, I think the worst is still to come. This one, they have succeeded to study it. Don't forget that there were some that were equally brought in and they are still under study, like the land tax, the housing tax, and all of those elements. They are still in they have not yet gotten a formula for that one to be reinforced, but this one was easier because all of us cannot stay without, many of us cannot do without our phones. And since it is like automatic for us to put credit in our phones or for us to do money transfers, it was easier for them to actually impute this money from us. So I think it is just a way for the state to survive, but how did they consider it in terms of the humanitarian aspect of the law is where, as you rightly said, we expected our MPs to do more explanations, which as we are here talking, it is only the media and what we have heard from official sources that we don't know how those in the villages or those who are in the remote areas or those who don't speak the poor English and French as some of you and I do have understood. So we just hope that with this call today in this platform, some of them will start taking their responsibilities come next week. At least we can say they will see diagnosing the law.
Now. You choose to explain that to your
well, I can explain to them, but I don't have the mandate. I don't have the mandate to go and call a meeting, to talk to them about what happened in the parliament, which I was not even part of the decision making. Some people have been given, we have given them part of our sovereignty for them to represent us. I will expect them to come and explain to us with the commonest words possible, because financial issues also are very complex, so we need them who understood
like
what
the
they have
minister
defended.
once said that the mathematics in Senegal is so complex that only him and the head of state can understand.
Exactly, just like their laws. All their laws in the parliament are so complex for us to understand. That is why whenever we talk, they say we don't understand what we are talking about. So they should come and explain to us in the most common words that can make us maybe get satisfied.
Senior Barrister Ashu, you're welcome and a happy Sunday to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tah Mai.
Senior Barrister Ashu.
Thank you. Happy Sunday, Mr. Tah Mai Javis. Happy Sunday, Dr. Ako, Dr. Eyong. A special happy Sunday to all the militants and sympathizers of Reform Party, wherever they may be. Well, this edition is coming up at a time when we have this very disturbing events coming from Kiev, where a sovereign state decides to invade another one and takes pretext of the UN Charter. It's very funny because the aggressor is trying to tell the world that the reason for his aggression is found inside the UN Charter. But I think we cannot be fooled. If Mr. Putin wants to fool other people, he should know that everybody, from all what he has been doing, should be able to know that Mr. Putin is trying to reconstitute the defunct USSR. When he's asking Ukraine to recognize the independence of breakaway Donetsk, the two breakaway republics, he's not saying anything about Crimea that is seized. We all understand that he wants to put Ukraine, which is a very rich agricultural country, wants to put it inside his basket and tell the world that now, like this, Russia is #1 country, #1 power in the world, not the US. So that message, I think people are understanding it. I don't expect him to stop his war, because he will only stop when he has subdued Ukraine. That's what I'm saying. All the nonsense he's talking about peace talks, that's just to fool people. Mr. Putin will not stop. It is very disturbing because before Ukraine, we saw Burkina Faso, Mali. They are behind. He's behind each and every one of these countries. Central Africa. What will stop him from coming to Cameroon?
Of course, he cannot come to Cameroon.
We pray he shouldn't come. Pray that he does not come.
Cameroon is a sovereign state.
Have you read Article 51 of UN Charter? The Article 51 that he's quoting. Have you read it? If he decides to apply it to Cameroon, what will stop him? Please, so that's why we always say the Yaoundé regime should do everything necessary to bring back peace in this country.
You have just raised that issue. Meaning that he could benefit from Article 51.
I am telling you that he can come here under Article 51. He can. If those rebels go there and see him and look, please, we shall give you this, that, he will come here and say Article 51. Before you open your eyes, you see Russian tanks, Russian aircrafts and everything. In 2 days, the thing will be over. Because
the same thing was used for the Biafra. The Biafra benefited where some countries recognized Biafra.
So it is very disturbing because this guy is already in our backyard. He's in Central Africa. He is in Burkina Faso. He is in Mali. So coming to Cameroon is not far-fetched.
But, Dr. Akujon, briefly on this Russia issue, we have 2 minutes as for then dive straight into our topic of today. If we look at the trend of Article 51, America invaded northern Vietnam under the same Article 51 that the Vietnamese were calling for them to assist them. The same thing in Nicaragua, and the same thing in 1967 when we had the same thing in 1967 where we had the Nigerian Biafran Civil War, where France and some other countries recognized Biafra as a state and supplied them under giving the pretext that the UN Charter 51 give them the legitimacy to do that. And looking at the conflict in Northern and Southwest, could this still be a pretext of pretext of Article 51?
Independent state. It's really bad.
Article 51 gives us the right to self-determination, but does not give us the mandate to kill and slaughter other human beings. That is what I want people to know. Secondly, within the ambit of international law, when you use force against a people, that does not equate you have violated the law. There is that principle of reciprocity of force that we are missing in Ukraine and Russia. Russia cannot tell you that the state of Lugansk and Donetsk are calling on them to assist them, and we are now again sad that those missiles or bombs he's using have gone above the border of Donetsk and Lugansk. If he gets into Lugansk and Donetsk and station his army there, we might be calling him to come in the southwest and the northwest to station his army.
This is the brutal regime that's attacking Donetsk and Lugansk, so he wants the brutal regime.
No, what we are insisting, Mr. Putin has an agenda. The government in Ukraine, the government in Kiev, Putin is not comfortable. The former president was masterminded and installed by Putin, as it was again manipulated and replaced by the Western nation. Putin has had a lot of anger why Zelensky should be the president governing in Kiev. And to him, he has his own leader. Imagine just 48 hours after bombing 2 or 3 places, his next call was that the military should take the power in Kiev. Meaning he is not going there for Donetsk and Lugansk. He wants to replace the government in Ukraine and then manage or monitor them from Moscow. We are sincerely really very sorry that Vladimir Putin, who has been an architect of international law, a great participant in international diplomacy, could be making such fatal excuses. Get to Donetsk, occupy Donetsk, and send away foreign intervention.
I follow his speech. This is his argument. Let me cue you in. His argument is that the people of Donetsk and Luhansk are calling for him to come and assist them, and that there is a brutal regime that is cracking down on. So he's on those people. So he feels that if he just protects these people, it's not enough because this brutal regime wants to encroach on them. So he feels this brutal regime to go. That is his argument.
He said in Parliament that they were going for a peacekeeping mission. Well, you know very well when you go for a peacekeeping mission. When you go for a peacekeeping mission, you are there to maintain peace, not to create war. We were expecting that Putin would take his soldiers quietly into Donetsk and maintain the frontiers. Then watch and see who is going to go above that particular frontier. If not, we will equally, like I'm saying, international law is already accusing Vladimir Putin of aggression. The war of aggression, human rights, and if you see the pictures already, I saw a soldier, a Ukrainian soldier, being hung on a tree and nailed over like Jesus Christ, sacrificing for the soul of his people. So it is already, and we have asked, who will be responsible for such offenses? And now that the military has its mandate, it should know that the offenses committed by his military presently on the ground are his offenses. He went there for military option, and now we find civilian targets being hit and destroyed. Homes and airports are being targeted. Who is going to be responsible? Are we still fighting the war in Donetsk? Is it there for the people of Lugansk and Donetsk? If not, the war has gone above him, and I believe international law will give account. He is used to the sanctions they are giving him. He will not come to Europe. He will not go anywhere. He will stay in Kremlin. and he has a lot of wealth.
Okay.
Somebody of that nature that takes the whole wealth of a nation to be his personal wealth. He has a lot of everything around him, but I believe, and I insist, Article 51 of the UN mandate gives the right for self-determination, but does not give anybody the right to take another person's life.
Are you saying that the separatists in the northwest and southwest region don't still have the same aspect to take the lives of soldiers in the north?
When you look at the processes that took
based
place,
on what you are saying, it means,
no,
that,
please,
it means that they should just
do not mix up Donetsk and Lugansk.
No, you are saying.
I am insisting, I will continue, that after they declaim the reclamation of independence of Southern Cameroon, it is a historic declaration. On the 11th of February 1961, the 1st of October 1961 remains an independent day. But you are still to mark here to tell us when Donetsk became independent and when Lugansk became independent.
But
so
Article 51 gives them that mandate now.
That is what I'm saying, that Article 51 gives the mandate and equally the right to self-determination, the right to self-defense. The right to self-defense. That is what is going on in Southern Cameroon.
Who takes responsibility for this? Because the US is not part of ICC, and which means that the ICC will not judge. The ICC did not judge Bush and Tony Blair, and Russia now, based on these issues that is happening in Ukraine. If at the end of the day he's defeated or he wins, who takes responsibility of the human casualties as far as this is concerned? And taking context of that same article, looking at the Anglophone crisis now, your thoughts?
Well, I think China has been doing same in neighboring countries in the Middle East, like Hong Kong. I think France has done similar aspects. They have been killing people there. Yes, they have been. It's part of China, but they have been killing people there because of their.
Yeah, Hong Kong claims that they have
Hong Kong is acting as a
it's a pro-independent.
Hong Kong is a pro-independent area.
In fact, the two stands on the Chinese flag represents two states, and one of those stands belong to Hong Kong. We should know that. Yes. Taiwan is not even a state.
Taiwan, it's China.
It's an independent
China
state.
too is threatening to take Taiwan.
Definitely, and there have been skirmishes time and again in those countries.
Right in Beijing, it is known that China is a state of two systems in one. Okay. They are aware.
Yeah. So when you come to Africa, still you will see those same actions that have taken place here by other powerful nations in the world. And so, to me, it is just what the UN has carved out for itself. The big fives in the UN, they did everything possible to safeguard their interests and to make sure that when they want to enter somewhere, there is an article in the UN that takes them there. Because if you remember, when France wanted to get to Libya, they also used laws concerning humanitarian actions and international law. When America wanted to go to Iraq, they used international law.
Because Libya is not a NATO member. Yeah, Libya did not attack any NATO country.
Yeah, but there was a NATO
intervention.
Yeah, and they were at the forefront of all the things. So to me, what is happening here is just to show that the big fives control the world. And when they want to do something, the other ones will try to raise eyebrows, but they know that the person who is intending to do something will do it. And just as Senior Barrister said, I have a strong belief that Russia is going to succeed in its mission. Because they are going to hang on economic sanctions, but for now, except otherwise, I don't yet see any country getting militarily involved in Ukraine in order to support Ukraine. So as we are rightly saying here, the issue about humanitarian law, about loss of life, to me, human life is no longer important in the world. The way it is now, gold and silver, petroleum, agricultural products have taken center stage. And once any country see that its economy is being threatened by any of those resources, be very sure that you are at the core of problems. So I strongly think that what is there left now should be continuous effort for diplomacy. It should be continuous effort to see how the damage can be reduced. Because to me, it is just the beginning of this issue. The greater disaster, the death toll is going to increase more than what we are seeing on both sides. But I think from what I see, it is better that all those powers that be should go in for negotiation with Russia instead of continuing the economic sanctions, because Russia knew that those sanctions will come. They have read the situation very well before they took the action.
They have intelligence.
They have intelligence, and they have already put in place Plan B on some of those issues. And there are even some sanctions that the Western world will not be able to meet on Russia because they equally know the repercussions. So that game is already put within them, how they will play it. It is left now for the Ukraine, small country, not to want to play the wise. Because when I hear the president trying to showcase that he is so strong and he can withstand Russia, I'm frightened. I'm really frightened with that type of courage because it doesn't make sense to me. So maybe the other experts on the table may explain better.
So he's putting the life of his people at risk.
Totally at risk, knowing fully whether when the worst comes to the worst, America will airlift him. But how many citizens will be airlifted from Ukraine? Because right now, it is the innocent people who are dying and the few soldiers who are already killed for now and who are going to die the more. I have not yet heard that any minister has died in Ukraine, neither in Russia, nor any parliamentarian or senator or whatever. So it means that the local people are those who are going to suffer the fate. So how can we push negotiation or diplomatic actions for that life toll or for the death toll to be reduced to the barest minimum is where I'm more concerned. And to end up, as I told you before, I am not too much bothered about that Ukraine, that stuff. Because we have a more serious problem here that we expected some of those countries to have made a statement.
Yes, before you, I'm coming to that.
They kept scraping the wound along the line, and then it has got into
this same charter. Does it give a green light in Cameroon's situation?
To me, there has even been efforts already to meet Russia. But Russia had not been in a full-scale war except when they entered Syria. Because we have had statements, even accusations, that efforts were being made to contact Russia to come into the picture. Okay. And at one point, the government of Cameroon took an advanced step by inviting the Russian ambassador in Yaoundé to talk with him and to maybe be on guard on the possible contacts with the Russian government. But I think now that the machinery has been set in place for Russia to be at war, as they started in Syria, and now they have engaged in this one, they have also entered in some few African countries, as Senior Barrister was saying.
Yeah, imagine.
There is no stop, because when they start, it is easier for them to continue. As they always say, when you kill one person, the chance of killing number 2, number 3 is very high. So to me, for them coming to Cameroon is not a risk, but the diplomacy of the country has to be on the watch. And so far, they have been doing something.
Senior Barrister Siseko Ashu, if we briefly on this, so that we move to the topic itself on today. U.S. invaded Nicaragua. U.S. used the same strategy in Vietnam. U.S. used the same strategy in Iraq, that the brutal regime of Saddam. U.S. used the same strategy in Afghanistan, that they were going after the Taliban regime that has failed to give the Al-Qaeda, because Bush said he gave 72 hours for Taliban regime at the time to hand over members of Al-Qaeda and their camps. But after 72 hours, Bush said this same regime has failed and violated sovereignty. Article 51, Cameroon is faced with the same situation. Can this be a benefit to the separatists too, or what lies ahead looking at this?
Thank you. For everyone to understand what we are talking about, I think we should look at that Article 51 with your permission. Article 51 of the UN Charter states, nothing in the present charter shall impair the inherent right of individual or collective self-defense if an armed attack occurs against a member of the United Nations until the Security Council has taken measures necessary to maintain international peace and security. Measures taken by members in the exercise of this right of self-defense shall be immediately reported to the Security Council and shall not in any way affect the authority and responsibility of the Security Council under the present charter deems necessary in order to maintain or restore international peace and security. Mr. Javis, this is very disturbing because Donetsk is not a member state of the UN. It's a breakaway republic. These are rebels. They declare their own. It's a self-proclaimed republic. But in our case here, Southern Cameroon is a state that was created by the UN. So we are more in this Article 51 than Donetsk. So if the Russians can enter Donetsk, enter Ukraine because of Donetsk, it's just a matter of time for them to come here, because we have all force. Southern Cameroon was recognized, independent was recognized in Article 1608. Sub 2. Donetsk hasn't got that recognition. So it is very, very disturbing, because if my memory doesn't fail me, the technicians are reported to have come from Russia to train these armed fighters so that they could start producing explosives and cannons and all that. So the breach has already been done, and I think that it is time for our government to make sure that we don't experience the worst. Because if they don't, these guys are not far. Central Africa is just a step away. Burkina Faso is up there. Mali is up there. If you look at those countries, the mineral wealth of Burkina Faso cannot be compared to that of Southern Cameroon. So we are more in danger than Burkina Faso, Mali, and Central Africa.
Okay.
Who, in those countries, you have 1, 2, 3 mineral resources, but Southern Cameroon is an ecological hazard.
Okay.
So if Putin puts his eyes on our area, I'm telling you that this thing will be over.
I begin with you on this 1996 constitution interpreted by top government officials as the best panacea or the best treatment in terms of resolving the Anglophone crisis and also uniting the country and giving balanced development where people are respected of their different political, social class, and they are respected on their cultural and managerial nature. Senior Barrister Ashu, your take on this constitution as far as the topic is concerned, can this be a panacea? Or is this irrelevant?
Well, the constitution you are citing states that Cameroon is a unitary decentralized state. That was 1996. Today, in 2022, we are 5 years old inside a civil war that was created by that constitution. So can somebody in his right senses say that that constitution, which is maintaining a unitary decentralized state that has led to civil war, can that be considered as a unifying factor? If you want to look at it constitutionally, the institution put in place by that constitution are utopic. Cameroon is a unitary decentralized state. The institutions of the state are the councils and the regions. If you look at the institution of Cameroon today, the councils and the regions have just been put in place a few years back. Up till now, we have as main institutions ministries. Governors are commanding the presidents of the regions. So how can somebody claim that this type of thing that is creating administrative confusion? Because if you say that the institutions of the state are councils and regions, then we expect that the councils and the regions should be the people who have the upper hand. The president of the region should be the person who is governing, not a governor who is appointed by the president. In fact, Cameroon today is a country where you have two captains on board in many regions. In the 10 regions, each region has 2 captains on board. The appointed governor and the elected regional president. How can that be called a factor of unity? This is real confusion. You cannot have 2 people heading a region, the president and the governor. One is appointed, one is elected. And the appointed one controls the elected one. Oh my God. Now, the region is supposed to have put in place, the constitution is supposed to have put in place a decentralized system of government. But what we have in place is an ultra-centralized system of government. Just look at the confusion. You have ultra-centralized. Everything goes to Yaoundé. The head of state once said, if Yaoundé breathes, Cameroon is alive. Everything is Yaoundé. Whereas that constitution is supposed to have put in place a decentralized system where it is the regions that are supposed to be living. Today, if you go to the public service, can you obtain anything from any region? by way of information. You must go to Yaoundé. Everything goes back to Yaoundé. So we think that 1996 constitution cannot be considered as an element of unity. It is outdated. The context of that constitution, it came after the tripartite. Today, most of the regions want autonomy. We are saying that it is time for Cameroon to revisit many factors concerning the state. Number one, the form of the state. The form of the state has to be revisited. That is the reason why there is that war, because of the form of the state. Southern Cameroons does no longer accept Northwest, Southwest. They want the state to be restored and autonomy given to them to manage their affairs, because since independence, Yaoundé has been taking everything.
But the government will argue
and
that,
not behaving like an honest broker.
But the government will argue that it's not the people of Northwest and Southwest, that's just few people.
Yaoundé has been taking everything,
that wants this, that...
please, sir, Yaoundé has been taking everything and not behaving like an honest broker. They have not been giving everybody his due share. You say, Yaoundé will say that it is not everybody agitating. I'm telling you that it is one out of the two brothers who is agitating. There were two brothers in 1961. One of them says, I'm not getting my fair share. So it is time that I be giving my fair share. If not, I will break away. I'll go away.
Okay.
So that's the problem. Now, there is another aspect of this thing that we may be leaving out. This 1996 constitution. Remember that constitution is a confused constitution. At the end, they tell you that this constitution will be progressively put in place. Meaning that we have...
I'm coming to that. I'll come to that and
okay,
I will read it to you so that you interpret it to us. You who is a legal mind. I've had that section. I was going through the section. I will come to you so that you really interpret it. Dr. Siseko, Dr. Ako, Dr. Eyong Tah, you know, the...
Yes. So.
The names are similar.
The names are similar.
The names are
similar.
similar.
my omission.
Yes.
Siseko, Dr. Eyong Tah, when you look at your take on this constitution, you see it as a panacea in terms of uniting the Cameroonians first, putting an end to the Anglophone crisis, and also bringing about balanced development that is so much needed within the 237 territory.
Well, I think I have a mixed interpretation of that. I would say yes and no. I will begin with the yes. The yes, first of all, is that that constitution was actually tailored for power reasons. It was tailored to put power in the hands of one person. And so if you have a good leader who has such much powers, because the whole constitution, if you read it, everything is centered around the president of the republic, the president, almost 80% of it all. So it means that if you have a president who knows how to use that power and has good faith, he is capable of acting as a monarch and able to create as much unity as possible, as we have seen in some other countries where you have absolute power at the head. So because even now that we have the Anglophone conflict, the armed conflict going on, if you hear many people who want to talk, everything centers around the president. The president will decide. The president has to. Which means that from this constitution, if we take it from the literary interpretation, it is possible for that constitution to solve the Anglophone crisis, because if the president says it should stop, it's going to stop. Absolutely. It means that if the president wants to make reforms, he can engineer it, because the constitution gives him the powers to enter the parliament. The constitution gives him the powers to touch the judiciary. The constitution gives him the powers to touch even those who have been incarcerated or even condemned in relation to the crisis. So that constitution, to me, has a possibility of resolving the Anglophone crisis. If it comes again to unity, as you pointed out, I would say the constitution, if implemented, can also do that magic, because it gives a clear-cut possibility that regions will be autonomous. It says that Cameroon is a unitary decentralized state, and it goes to enumerate that it will be focused on the regions who have economic power, social power, the power for sports, the power to develop education, and all of that. Which means that if the constitution is applied as supposed to,
let me read it so that you continue.
Yeah.
The duty of the council of the region and local authorities, that is section 55, sub 3, sub 2. The duties of the council of the region and the local authorities shall be to promote the economic, social, health, education, culture, and sport development of the said authorities.
Exactly. So it means that there are elements in that constitution which, if implemented in good faith, it can help to ameliorate what is happening in the northwest and southwest region, which I prefer to call southern Cameroon. You know, and then if you look at it also in terms of the linguistic element, the constitution clearly says that French and English are the official languages and they will have equal status. So it also shows that they have recognized the fact that the modern day Cameroon is made up of two Cameroons. One that has French as its main language, and the other one that has English as its main language. So if the constitution has to be implemented on that article, it will also give the possibility for people to feel comfortable using the language that they best know, and the country having the aspect of the bilingualism being highly promoted. Now, let me take a few aspects that I said pose a problem. The first article of that constitution, I am not too much a legal mind, a barrister may correct me. I think the first aspect of the preamble says that the name of the country will be the Republic of Cameroon. That is a problem that
the United Republic of Cameroon.
The United, no, not United.
Okay, the preamble.
United. I think it says the Republic of Cameroon.
Yes.
When you look at that first aspect of the preamble, it is a violation of the 1961 agreement. They have indirectly eliminated that other part of the country to take the name that one of the Cameroons had at independence. Because if my memories are not failing, the part we call today French Cameroon, we call French Cameroon, had independence in 1960 with the name the Republic of Cameroon, in the French acronym La République du Cameroun. So if in 1996 this name was brought back in the picture, we can clearly and comfortably say here that that country seceded from the other country, or abandoned the other country that came in, and they started with the federal and came to the United Republic. Again, when you look at the way the constitution is, they say that one of the other articles says that the regions and the councils will be operational, but the president will appoint a representative. And the representative will be the coordinator of the councils and the regions and the councils. This representative here, they are talking about the appointed official. And when you go to the Northwest and Southwest region, you will see that the people who were elected as regional presidents, since the conflict started, they have not carried out one action in terms of resolving the conflict. You don't even see them talk. Sometimes, by error, when the governor is talking, you can see one of them hiding behind the governor and maybe listening to what the governor has to say. But if they are truly elected officials, they are supposed to be capable to do the broker function, where they can talk to the people and the people will be able to listen to them and also give in their consent. You also see again in the same constitution where I think somebody talked here about the issue of progressively, which you said you'll come back to it. It is showing clearly that the constitution was intended not to help Cameroonians go through their freedom, not to help Cameroonians go through freedom of speech or maybe their democratic principles and so on, because they know that if they do so, power was going to escape the central administration. So if constitution was in 1996 and 4 years ago they started talking seriously about reinforce the decentralization process because the armed conflict came in, and 2 years ago elections were made to reinforce the decentralization process, and as we speak now there are still about 15 decrees that have to be signed to make the decentralization process effective, and the incumbent has about 4 years to end his mandate. It therefore shows that It's going to take us again another 20 years for this constitution to be practically put in place. And so it means the Anglophone crisis will not be resolved with the present constitution and with the present regime.
Okay. Barrister Ako, John Ako, when we look at this constitution, you're someone who is vast as far as interpreting this law. Can this be the panacea, as many have been stating? I know Senior Barrister Ashu made an allusion that it is not, it is an outdated, that it is the same constitution that brought war, so it cannot still be put in place.
Yeah, it's obviously that the problems Cameroon is facing presently, the issue of unity or disunity, centralization or concentrated power emanated from the very constitution. Remember, after 1972, there was equally the 1974 law on local collectivities in Cameroon, local councils in Cameroon. So when President Paul Biya decided wholeheartedly in 1984 to change the name of the country, this is what brought us to the 1996 constitution to identify the unitary character. They said united, a decentralized state. United and decentralized. It took us another close to 18 years. In 2004, the government came out with a law on decentralization. We are in 2022, meaning 2004, 2022. What have we realized? What have we seen? Government have been cajoling the state of Cameroon by creating a ministry. They called the Ministry of Territorial Administration and Decentralization, which was to him part of a willingness of the state to relinquish power to the local collectivity. After serious criticisms, the Anglophone crisis was already in sight. He created one ministry they called the Ministry for Decentralization. The Decentralization Ministry, after creation, what has it served? For again, a political agenda, which is still a propaganda move. Government has created what we call SEFAM. To them, these are institutions that are going to prepare the institution, the installation of a decentralized system. Is that what we are seeing? Within the same maneuver, you realize that the 2004 law gave what we call autonomy, for financial autonomy of these councils. Is there an institution in Cameroon that will function, or anywhere in the world, without financial autonomy? But you realize, like what happened, yes, imagine what happened in Bamenda, where a group of representatives, those at the level of the regional assembly, were even worried and disturbed that the budget they voted, that budget was drafted in Yaoundé. Imagine a regional decentralized authority sitting to vote its own budget. The budget had been drafted in Yaoundé and imposed on them to vote. Some of them that were not ready to vote because they don't even know what the budget is standing for, where it will be taken from. Because when we make a budget from the sources of revenue we are expecting from the beginning to the end of the year, how we are going to run the council, what projects we are going to leave. With a lot of statistics given again today, you will realize that what councils have is not up to 5% of the state budget. Imagine a council which we have said, if taken closer to the people, is going to increase what? Participation in local politics. It's going to alleviate poverty. It's going to cause inclusiveness. It's going to take the administration closer to the people. These are all the issues which we think, up to now, if you need to dig just a small well, for you to bring out a well, for you to get a small salt on your table from your backyard, you need authorization from the Ministry of Mines, because councils are still autonomous to gather or get some of these things within themselves. We see within the Cameroonian system that we have been fooling the people a lot of times, and sometimes, imagine again, to make it again worse, after what they call the failed measure national dialogue, they came out with a resolution of a special status. People said a special status again was to cement up on the law on decentralization, so that the English people should be looked upon differently. And we went back because the state has the autonomy to create, to include. That's what the law 2 is saying, that at any one point, President of the Republic can even demolish some councils. Yes. Likewise, it can limit some. Likewise, it can create some. Just imagine such autonomy. When the councils which we have had already, 1996 to today, I believe you very strongly, the government knows that there is no council functioning, and that all what we have are simply government representatives. Barrister was talking here. When you have a government, a council where we have appointed the government delegate, that was before last 2 or 3 years. Today, they have what they call a supermayor. Supermayors that are imposed, elected, but nominated by the ruling party. You can imagine that. Within the same supermayor, the secretary general is appointed by the state administration. You have a mayor that was first of all imposed by the hierarchy of the party. They will tell you party discipline. Those people at the local cannot select a candidate. They are the one that choose whom you are going to vote. After voting the individual, the second person whom the law said is an executive organ. The secretary to the council, it is again appointed by the state. Is it not just an outright meaning that we are not even willing to decentralize?
Come on, it's a state of law now.
Please, Mr. You will spare us a lot of those propaganda where a lot of those CPD people. I said it is not, even himself, he knows that he is not right. He knows he is not right. And that if there is a state of law should not only be when the interest of the ruling party is at stake. A state of law should equally be when Cameroonians suffers. Okay. We presently have Cameroonians in Ukraine. Other governments and nations have made deployment to bring back their citizens. We are expecting the action of the state. We have been going through, imagine, Cameroon is a state of law.
Waiting for high place instruction.
We don't, but that is when the nation is summed up to an element of a single being. And once the central machine, like now, we said the brain of the head of state has become obsolete. He doesn't.
No, how obsolete? How obsolete? How obsolete?
We are saying it is obsolete.
No, you.
I said so, and I'm still telling you.
They are taking
I said unanimously.
Yeah, you.
My Mr. Javis, I'm telling you the head of state where we are.
No, I'm not rejecting. I'm saying
please,
you.
We are here
since
November. We are talking of the high cost of movement of prices in the market. Is there any decision that have tried to solve that problem? Do you know what we mean by obsolescence? Obsolescence is that you are unable to respond to active issues that takes place within where you are governing.
Okay.
And if we are unable to respond to the situation in Ukraine, we have been unable to, the high cost of living, we are making noise. When people talk of inflation, government, you find the Minister of Finance coming to tell you that inflation has been managed, it's stable, has been stabilized. Is that really what we mean?
Progressive.
We are talking of the state of law. When you praise and sing songs and chants for the head of state, you are a very good statesman. The moment you come out to say it is not going, it becomes a problem. We should be honest here. The law is fair. The law is for all. And I have begun to always inform Cameroonians that the institution created within the ambit of the 1996 Constitution were meant to serve Cameroonians, not an individual. Were meant to serve the nation. That which means they will live after us and we will go and live them.
Okay.
The state Cameroon belongs to all. There should be that political will, the political will to execute. Imagine here, it goes the same. People are asking, in the Northwest and the Southwest, the law on self-determination, the law on special status, demand that the governors are supposed to step down. And since the law is saying that the laws will be put in progressively,
that's what I'm
that is what I'm saying. That progressively we are going to put in place, so governors can be again for another 100 years, since it is progressively.
Briefly, Dr. Ako, that same law states that Section 66 that we are supposed to declare our assets. Have you declared your asset?
What am I declaring? Remember, you have forgotten that Article 66 of the Constitution is stating of those who are responsible in state management. Private individuals might not be concerned, obviously. I don't think I hold any office here. They said before taking office and after office. Mr. Tah Mai, have you voted me into any office here? Or you have a
Then you said we.
No, but that is what I'm telling you.
Head of state, but it means that you are speaking on behalf of the people.
He is the number one. I'm telling you, uneasy lies the heads that carries or bears the crown.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Tah, and to you and your panelists. To the best of my knowledge, Cameroon has no constitution because Cameroon is being ruled by presidential decree. So for the constitution to resolve the conflict, the president has to sign another decree of implementation, which even the Cameroon constitution is not being respected because the only part of the Cameroon constitution being respected is a part of tax increase. This is coming from Kimbeng from Nyambong. Senior Barrister Ashum, I want us to look at this constitution again, diving straight into section 67. Section 67, I will read 67 and 68. It's good I read that briefly so that you interpret it. Section 67 talked about the transitional and final provisions, and which 67 sub 1 states the new institution of the republic provided for under this constitution shall be set up progressively, meaning that the regional council and all this that we've had shall be done progressively. And sub 2 states that why 67 sub 2 states that why the institutions are being set up, and until such time they are set up, the existing institution of the republic shall remain in place and shall continue to function, meaning the governor of the region still have his power based on this constitution, even if there is a regional council president who is the chief executive officer by this constitution. It's constitutional, and Mr. Paul Datanganji says, come on, the state of law.
Go to 68.
Okay, 68 said sub 1 said the legislative applicability of the federal state of Cameroon and in the federated state on the date of entry into force of this constitution shall remain in force insofar as it is not repugnant to this constitution, as long as it is not amended by subsequent laws and regulations.
Thank you. You see, I was saying it before. In fact, that 1996 constitution just tells you that Cameroon is still governed by the federal constitution and by the Southern Cameroon's constitution.
There must be a mix or somewhere.
No. Because many people didn't know that Southern Cameroon has look, that Southern Cameroon constitution is still in force today. When you talk of English being recognized, the English legal system, they were put in place by the Southern Cameroon constitution. Others in council 1960.
1955.
No, 1960. There's a constitution. Others in council 1960. That's the constitution. So how can you have a constitution that is a melting pot? Everything is inside. They make laws and tell you that they are going to apply them progressively. It took them 18 years to start thinking of applying decentralization. Now I was saying that we have a situation where elected regional presidents are licking the boots of appointed governors.
You have a problem.
So how long is this going to continue before you allow the elected regional presidents to assume full office? Now, you see, when we even talk of this decentralization, that is even French. The real thing is local government. Because that constitution puts in place local government. It's local government. How can you have local government when you have an over-centralized government that is in place? You're having local government and centralized government. Then they say the central government will give back part of its powers to the councils. This is total nonsense. Total nonsense.
The time frame is not stated between this time to this time.
Are ministries mentioned inside the constitution? Why do you carry other money and give it to those ministries? Are they mentioned in the constitution? You see, look, this is the confusion these people are creating. You are putting up a system of local government and mixing it up with an over-centralized government. You cannot choose one. Una via electa. Choose one. You cannot take the two. You cannot take centralization and local government.
But now there's also...
There are two forms of government. You cannot take the two.
There's also a nuance which you have brought it up, which is in 68. Maybe I take it again so that the ordinary Anglophones come on here to listen. 68, section 68 of the 1996 Constitution, you can Google that. It states the legislation applicable in the federal state of Cameroon,
yes,
and in the federated state on the date of entry into force of this constitution shall remain in force insofar as it is not repugnant to the constitution and as long as it is not amended by subsequent laws and regulations. And also this law shall be registered as 69. This law shall be registered and published in the official gazette of the Republic of Cameroon in English and in French, and implemented as the Constitution of the Republic of Cameroon, signed in Yaoundé, 18 January 1996, His Excellency President Pobia.
Mr. Tah Mai Javis, there you are giving us the legal foundation for the restoration of the state of Southern Cameroon.
You are saying so?
I say you are giving us.
I'm reading what the Constitution is.
That is it. That is the legal basis.
No, it's the Constitution that is giving. No, where is it me? Somebody might quote that Javis is giving the legal basis.
Okay, you are reading the legal basis.
Signed by President Pobia.
You are reading it signed by President Pobia.
Okay.
Because inside there, you have the reason that, I mean, the explanation why the Southern Cameroon Constitution is still being applied to today. Although nobody wants to mention it, it is. That's the Constitution that is being applied. The federal Constitution itself is being applied. In fact, when we, the lawyers, the legal minds like Dr. Ako here, when you go to the courts, the customary courts here in Douala, in the Francophone region, the law they apply DF 554. East Cameroon law. Is East Cameroon law. East Cameroon law.
Okay.
Clearly being applied to today. So you see, this constitution is actually creating confusion. It is necessary, from what we are seeing here, that we should all go back to the drawing board and recreate Cameroon. Let us create a Cameroon that looks like us today.
Okay. Thank you, Senior
This
Pastor.
thing is
We'll come back
uploaded.
to you. Dr. Ayonta, you've listened to the argument. And I don't know, maybe from this 68, where are we? You are a political person that understands, you have been to the corridor of power. You are always around the corridor of power. You understand this 68 and 67. They said progressively, which means I come now to 68 to talk about the federal structure, talk about the sounding of all this kind of stuff. Where are we?
Well, I think the committee that was put in place to review this constitution or amend it, they had pressure from the few Southern Cameroonians who were in the panel. I think there were also very strong legal minds who were accompanying that commission, or who were members of that commission. And I have a strong feeling that the president of that commission, whom we all know, the eminent professor, in wanting to appease them, because they've proposed a federal constitution, or a reinforced federal constitution from the one that was stopped in 1972 after the different tripartite meetings that took place. I heard that they had a copy, or they had suggestions that were pro-federal. And like the Monzos, the Anyangwes, who were part of that commission, and they were overshadowed by the president of the commission, who was Professor Owona. So I personally think that it is their presence in that commission that infiltrated that Article 68 in wanting to soften the minds of those who were involved. But if you notice it very well, you will see that as much as that Article 68 is there, what is being applied so far has got nothing to do with the federal constitution. It is not used anywhere in terms of what they have been applying so far in Cameroon. Because if you notice in the constitution, they said they were going to take into cognizance the specificities, like the law that came out of in 2019, the specificities of Southern Cameroons, or the Northwest and Southwest, in terms of education, in terms of legal practices, in terms of traditional values, in terms of governance. Those things are clearly spelled out there. And the constitution that was done in 1996 constitution, these are the aspects that were prevailing in the federal constitution. They were not brought into that constitution. For example, the House of Chiefs in terms of traditional values was not existing. Now they have brought it back in a law and not the constitution. If you look at it in terms of the educational setup, it was transferred into the system that exists now, but it has been infiltrated with some policies that are not original from what was inherited or what was carried out, brought in 1961. If you look at the system of governance too, you also see those same elements there. So to me, that Article 68, as much as it makes some sense, the system has made it silent to the best possible means. And it is only like today, when I was going through that, I noticed that something federated was in the constitution. To be honest with you, up to yesterday, I did not know that there was an article in that constitution that even bared the word federated until recently.
And the federal constitution remain in place.
That is it. And for the articles, but the question now is, which are those articles in the federated constitution that no law has abrogated them, or which term they are using in the legal
that is repugnant to that
because until we say that, you will see that they have put it deliberately there to be blurred as many other things that they usually put in.
That you cannot go against, you cannot say this because it is repugnant to this.
That is it. Because you must be able to take you must be able to have the constitution of of the federal constitution. You look at what exists in the 1996 constitution. You see which elements of the federal constitution have not been changed by a new law. Because the way they have put it, it shows that there are other laws that have come out okay, that have abrogated issues of the federal constitution that are not in the present constitution. That is why they clearly said that laws, and you know that so many laws are always produced in Cameroon. So I have a strong feeling, without being a legal mind, that there are laws that have abrogated some of those elements. But if Senior Barrister and Dr. Ako, they can give us some aspects of the federal constitution which have not yet been cancelled by new laws, then that is a base from which we can begin to start arguing that it means that this thing that we are doing in Northwest and Southwest is legal, because there is no law that has come out after 1996 that has cancelled that particular aspect.
Good afternoon, fellow panelists. Appreciation of the good job you people are doing. Cameroon is the only country in the world that put laws and doesn't respect them. Its own laws. It's coming from Valley in Limbe. This other read, it says, good afternoon, Mr. Tah. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon, Legal Minds. I want to appreciate Dr. Eyong Tah from coming all the way in Yaoundé, if you said he's coming from Yaoundé, and to say that let him tell us how is the president doing in Yaoundé, because we are told that things are not working at A2D. Dr. Eyong Tah is not a member of CDM, or Dr. Eyong Tah.
Maybe he lives at A2D.
Maybe you not live at
I think our telling you, we just want him to know that being in Yaoundé is not synonymous to being closer to the president.
People feel like
because even those who live in the neighborhood, they don't see the president. Even those who guard the president, they don't see the president.
That's tell you how much love Cameroonians have for their president.
Cameroonians love their president, especially with the way that, not Cameroonians, some Cameroonians love the president because of the way he has let things to go, and they are getting their best out of it to the detriment of the majority. So to them, if the president can remain the way it is, for them to keep fitting fat on the poor Cameroonians, the better for them. They will prefer him to stay there till the kingdom come. But I think our televiewers should know that for now, the president is doing well in terms of being alive, because he's not yet dead.
Dr. Aku Janaku, 67. I want us to move back to 66 before coming to 67, that it shall be done progressively. And also in 65, 55 talked about the regional authorities, that the center of regional authorities. When we look at the just ended to 11 February celebration, let me use Boya as a reference, where the regional council president, who is the CEO, came before the vice chancellor of the University of Boya, based on the protocol that was given. Came before the vice chancellor of the University of Boya, and the vice chancellor of the University of Boya met him there, and the governor came. So people like Barrister Ule asked the question that is it now the rank as such, is the VC now ranking as such that he is above the regional CEO? I'm sure Barrister Ule raised that in our last program. And looking at this 55, the regional council.
Yeah, one of the things I want us to understand, that you were the one reading us and telling us here that Cameroon is a state of law.
It's a state of law now.
You said Cameroon is a state of law. When we try to
water
water down such issues, it's at times like you are trying to anger the state. It is not. I equally want to tell you that somewhere when we open the African Nations Cup, remember the president of FECAFOOT was not even fine on the protocol, and that is the person we think is the one hosting the event. FECAFOOT, CAF, FIFA is hosted in Cameroon by the president of the Cameroon football.
For the finals.
It is. Do we need to correct? Imagine such issues coming from the presidency of the republic, and now you are asking a small pocket disorder at the regional level. So it is just a Cameroonian malaise. It is a disease, an illness that has eaten us already. Some people want to prove strong. I will tell you that normally, if we have the president of the region and the governor that is appointed, the governor is not supposed to come before the president of the region. The person to chair the region should be the elected officials. And that is why we are saying that it is time for us to do away with these appointed officials, because we don't need them. You cannot be in one town.
He came before the VC.
But that is what I'm saying, that it is not correct. This is somebody that is voted by the people. The VC is appointed in one administrative unit. It's just an administrative unit. Education. I don't see where, it is not even of the central administration. Education is not at the central administration. Central administration, we have the prefects, the DOs. We should be talking about that. At least one can even.
And even when you look at the 55, means that the CEO still have the authority over the university because he's.
Obviously, they are within his circumscription. They are within his area of command. The university is under. Remember,
higher education is not
the law on
No, but it was not mentioned whether higher education
No, it's
or
mentioned.
in the constitution.
No,
it says
I said the
education.
law on decentralization.
The law on decentralization.
On decentralization, education is within the circumscription of the what they call
It's not a
decentralization.
basic.
Yeah, they say education. Yes, that is the system.
Clearly defined.
That is the system. Within what we have,
Even
I
by
will.
state protocol.
Okay.
Because there has been a problem. Let me just take 1 second of your time. There has been a similar problem in Chang, where there was because from state protocol, the vice chancellor has a higher status compared to the governor. That is the truth about it. But it's not supposed to be that type of confusion based on local realities. Okay. Because by state protocol, the vice chancellor or the rector has the level of, I think, a secretary of state or something of that sort. Yeah. So in that circumstance, those who are overzealous can want to use that aspect because it's a state ceremony. So it happened in Chang at one point with a certain rector who insisted that he has to come last. And the deal did not bother much. The senior divisional officer simply asked him, if you come last, no problem. So who presides over the ceremony? There was a deadlock. Because he was the senior divisional officer to preside over the ceremony since he is the head.
So it means that we are seeing the nuance in the constitution.
Yeah, no, that is where we are coming in to say that those little discrepancies have to be tailored within certain circumstances to fit the realities.
The state protocols are issues which are made by law, and if we cannot really rectify them at the level we are putting in institutions,
creating
then
conflicts,
the problems may continue.
Sure.
You will find individuals now creating hatred as if they are the origin of the problem. The
it.
governor will have a problem, the DO will have a problem, the CEO of the region will be having a problem with the rector, thinking that the rector just wants to show off. Yeah, the state need to come out clearly and define who is who within that particular region. Right. Within the ambit of creating institutions, I will tell you that Cameroon is not doing well. This nation is not doing well. We are at the height of the crisis. And I will tell you, again, a lot of Cameroonians are for federation. Even when the state will tell you that they are doing decentralization, I have said decentralization has become imposed. They move from gradual decentralization to accelerated decentralization. We are not still seeing things going better. So decisions, roads have been abandoned. Some projects have been abandoned which were commanded from Yaoundé. Don't we think that really the proximity we're crying, that administration to be taken closer to the people will solve us some good? Within Article 55, the state going gradually, we should see within it equally accompanied a political will to create these institutions and man them, finance them, and equally give the materials necessary for them to function. It doesn't take us too much. But one thing I feel is that the government in Yaoundé is feeling like humiliated if powers are taken away from them. If powers are taken from them, remember, it will come equally with the head of state message to the nation one time that the state was going to cut down his budget to reduce expenses. If we transfer power to the local administration, it will mean that those who become payments, that the treasurers will become of the local government, and that the state burden may become in terms of defense and maybe security. Why not? At the level of security, there is even the need for council police like it exists in other nations, so that the council should even have the police and gendarmes. Why not? Then the government can take over just of the military. This will help the government to equally rule and become effective. When that the results in this other domain, finance and the rest, the law on decentralization, again providing that at least 25% of the budget, of national budget, should be accorded to local government. But if we are saying today that we are at 5%, you can see that really there is nothing can go on within the regions. Nothing can go on. If there is a will, there should be a way. After 40 years in power, the same people who created the laws are unable to impose the law. Then there is a problem. Cameroon has the will within its laws, but equally the state authorities need to do better. Article 66 you have just mentioned, I would like very strongly that we'll start with the number one man. Institutions that were not even previewed by the constitution have been created, and they have already, we have the special criminal court. So many Cameroonians have asked, since the head of state has the duty, the mandate to create and to demolish institutions. So he now creates institutions that somewhere he said created a political difficulty. What was the extent of creating the special criminal court without implementing Article 66? It's because I feel that those who are ruling the nation will be victims if we have to declare our assets before and after taking or leaving office. These are some of the problems which we need to know. That once the constitution, I remember sometime Kofi Annan, the then Secretary General of the United Nations, was advising Nigeria that a constitution is not a rough work paper where anybody feel he can manipulate over it or pass over it anytime. A constitution is made to save the life of the nation, and that African leaders should deter from this character of manipulating with such instrument. You go to the United States, they will tell you limited number of amendments. No president of the United States has a mandate to revise the constitution. We follow institutional provisions. And if it is not, if they find that some articles are having problem, but they will keep on waiting. Remember the law to possess and own arms in the US has become a problem. After a serious struggle by President Barack Obama, they are not still possible. But in Cameroon here, anytime the president expresses a wish, remember the most talk now is that there is a possibility to introduce the post of the vice president. And the moment, remember, this was the position that was introduced and President Pobia became president. And today he's unable to leave. So we think we have to learn to respect state institutions.
Okay, if we must respect state institutions, therefore it means that Cameroon is a state of law now.
I said we should learn, meaning for now, we are not a state of law.
If you have a problem now, will you go to the gendarme?
We have been going to the gendarme. These are local cases. These are local.
That's a law in being.
So law is existing.
You are a lawyer too. You are a legal mind. You are a barrister. So you will not defend your client.
You are free to your opinion, Mr. Tah Mai Javis. And
so if I have a matter now, come to you now that.
I have the matter. People are.
John Ako, can you help me?
You have the Seleka in the east. You have the Ambazonians in the southwest. I'm just telling you, you are talking of Cameroon generally. I just want to tell you that the law really does not hold the nation together. The law presently does not hold the nation together.
Thank you, Barisa Ako, John Ako. Siseko, Ashu Julius Senior, Ashu Emmanuel. You know, these two names are always.
No, Emmanuel.
No,
Emmanuel.
One is from Southwest, one is from Northwest.
Mr. Senior Barrister, I want us to look at we are almost out of time. We have 10 minutes. Briefly, I want us to look at the way out of this, because if you look at 60s.
Excuse me first. There are things that have been said that need to be answered before we go to where you are going. The first one is that we have to look at the two articles, 66, 67 and 68, as nation builders. What were the people who drafted these articles confronted with? It is not because, I think that it's not because of the presence of A or B in a commission. It is because of the legal problems that were confronting these people. Remember, in 1961, we had two states, which had, two complete states. Each one had a constitution, and each one had its assembly. Southern Cameroon had a bicameral assembly. Republic of Cameroon had its own assembly. These two states all had their laws. So when 68 talks of the laws of the federated states, it is correct. The federated states had laws. I just give you an example of a law of a federated state that is still being applied today. In
Douala?
Yes, in the Francophone territory, the law on the customary court is still being applied. Now, the problem here is a legal one. Does the Parliament of the Republic of Cameroon have locus standi to cancel or repeal the constitution of Southern Cameroon? That is the problem. Does it have locus standi? Southern Cameroon constitution was enacted by the Queen of England. Can it be repealed by Yaoundé? So in the face of that difficulty, that Article 68 had to be put in place to enable the country run until such time when we shall sit down and find a solution. Because the people really had a problem in front of them. One country cannot repeal the constitution of another.
But they will tell you that Cameroon
no,
is a sovereign state.
No, sir. We are
talking
law.
Sovereignty.
We are talking law, sir.
Apart from that,
we are talking international law. You can't do that.
Dissolved in 1972. So if they come in 1996, before they included that, senior barrister cannot refuse the fact that the presence of some people in that council, in that commission, did not influence that. we know that this government, in fact, Britain had abandoned Southern Cameroon ever since. No. So we cannot claim that by 1996, those people were afraid to repugnant or to change the constitution that was done by Britain.
We are talking about international law. We're not talking about people fearing.
No, it's not a matter of no, I
because
refuse to you. From a literary perspective, it's not true. You know that is not
what
true.
Is not true?
It's not possible that those people were afraid of that constitution because Queen Elizabeth was involved or England was involved. They had abandoned the constitution.
Listen. No. You are taking my time. When you were talking, I didn't intervene.
All right.
You are taking my time. Okay. I never said Queen Elizabeth intervened. I am saying that the parliament in Yaoundé has no local standard. You should understand what I'm saying. Has no local standard to repeal the Southern Cameroon constitution.
They do.
They do. What? You may be giving us your.
I will give you my own appreciation.
Your reference at the international law to tell us which Nigeria.
Which law give that power to? Does not give them that power. Which law?
You tell us how Nigeria will repeal
which law in Cameroon
constitution. Is that possible?
The two constitutions were meshed.
Oh
when the two countries came together, and they created a constitution that was to govern the Federal Republic of Cameroon.
Let me remind you. Let me remind you.
It's not true.
Oh, Mr. Tah Mai, let me remind Mr. Ayong. It looks like he was a very young.
He's a Siseko.
Okay. Oh, wait. Mr. Ayong doesn't change Siseko.
It's all right. It's all right.
I'm also a Siseko. I can call him.
And I hope Dr. Akko will come into.
He is talking of 1960.
No, you should don't be
there's no time. I'm sure.
Let me visit the Constitution of 1st September 1960. 1961. That Mr. Ayong is talking about. I want to remind him because he said the two states meshed and the constitution was created. I want to remind him that constitution was a unilateral act of the Parliament of the Republic of Cameroon. It was not an act of the parliaments of the two states. I want to remind you, it was the unilateral act. It came from the sole parliament of the Republic of Cameroon. It is a Republic of Cameroon legislation. Southern Cameroons did not participate in that legislation. So when you start talking of merge, I don't know where the merger came. Did they merge in spirit? Or they merge where? So now I am giving a point of fact that considering the fact that these people were nation builders, they know what happened in 1961. That constitution, that federal constitution you are citing, never saw the participation of Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon, if Southern Cameroon had participated there, then you would have said that Southern Cameroon had decided.
Assembly.
Oh my God!
Now we have just 2 minutes.
No, it's misleading.
No, let me learn. I will come to you. Let me learn so that I will clarify it. I see your barrister conclude. We're out of time. Just learn so that Dr.
That is the reason why I'm saying that it is not for fancy that Article 68 was put there. It's because there was a real constitutional law difficulty.
Okay.
Because the federal constitution was not an act of the two Cameroons. It was an act of one Cameroon, that is the Republic of Cameroon. Southern Cameroon did not participate. This left the difficulty that the Southern Cameroon laws could not be repealed under that federal constitution.
We're out of time.
And that's the reason why they have to put Article 68 to say that they remain in force until new registration.
Thank you, Siseko. Ashu, Siseko, Ta.
Yes.
Maybe briefly, round on this, I'll take on Barrister Akko Jonto. End of the program. Briefly, you said.
Thank you. Before I answer, I want to tell Senior Barrister that if he doesn't want to call me Siseko, he should call the doctor. I didn't pick it. Just like he cannot refuse his title, Senior Barrister. So don't call me Mr. on this platform. I will insist on that. That said, yes, I insist.
Among citizens, I can call you Mr.
No, we are not here in the traditional setup as you have said it. So I repeat that if you don't want to call me Siseko, which you are one,
I am Siseko. I can.
Don't call me Mr.
Doctor.
Don't call me Mr. on this platform. That is disrespect. That said, Javis, I want to insist here that the constitution that was made in 1996 cannot be appraised without us taking to cognizance the few Southern Cameroonians that were involved in that commission. I repeat and I insist. Because whatever thing federated that came in that constitution that we want to rightfully hang on to justify our claim of Southern Cameroon came because of this article that is inside there. And the people there were not obliged, to add that article. I am still saying that before this 1996 constitution, the constitution of that was used in Cameroon within the federal system was changed in 1972. And that constitution of 1972, I have not seen it, I don't know it, but I don't remember that it continued to the extent where this article 68 was still there in the 1972 constitution to 1995. So if we are insisting here that the constitution has that element that can be useful to us, we cannot keep arguing on the fact that it is because there was a legal strength at that time that could not permit. We know how Cameroon government can violate anything that they want to violate if it stands within the sovereignty. Cameroon is a sovereign country, and Cameroon is functioning now under a united Cameroon made up of two Cameroons. And we cannot try to insist that if they have added something there as a federated, some people did not influence it to come in. That is where my argument is with the
okay, so your problem is not that it was the Queen's.
It was not that England had nothing to do with it. England has abandoned Southern Cameroon for as long as maybe Dr. Ako can add that as a legal mind. But I know that England had not supported Southern Cameroon in their political and legal fight as far as its unity with the French Cameroon is concerned. And so we cannot come here and try to give Britain what they don't deserve.
Okay.
Because if they had been supporting this struggle,
we're out of
where
time,
we
so
are, we would not have been where we are.
So summarily, what are you saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that if it happens that there are issues there about the federated, as his senior barrister has said, I wanted to get clarification from my own little understanding, which are those elements that can enable us to hang on.
Okay.
To say that as long as that article is there, these are elements of the federal constitution
that are not repugnant with,
that are not repugnant
with the 1996 constitution.
So
we can hang on.
Okay. And it will be beneficial to our people and to ourselves.
Maybe because of time constraints.
Yes, so, yes. No, it was not an immediate answer. No, I said so, but it was not an immediate. That was my question that I ended my my last intervention with. But it cannot be for an immediate consumption. It's a proposal that will need such arguments.
Barrister Ako Jonako, briefly, you wanted to react briefly.
Yeah, no, normally Barrister Achu was saying that Southern Cameroon never participated in the first September 1961 constitution, but I equally said there was the Fumban Constitutional Conference where delegates of Southern Cameroon were represented. It is equally, please, there was Yaoundé after Fumban, but the Yaoundé after Fumban takes into the readings of what happened in Fumban. It was a continuity of what has taken place in Fumban. In fact, Britain has not been present anywhere, and I want to ask, within the systems, yes, the Yaoundé tripartite meeting did not take into consideration really the wants of Southern Cameroon in Yaoundé. A lot of work was done in Fumban, where I insist. Within the representative of Foncha, Ndele, they were all present in Fumban. The proposals from Manfei and Bamenda were taken to Fumban. A lot of literary work was done, typing secretariats were done, and we cannot continue tailoring right up to that. There was a participation. Remember too, that Southern Cameroon has not yet constituted himself as a nation on the eve, and what the meetings were meetings of delegates. We have to know that. The independence came on the 1st of October, yes. 1st of October 1961, after the February election. Southern Cameroon was not yet...
You have forgotten 1608, sir.
Please, I'm saying that within the 1608 Southern Cameroon institution was not yet composed. Please, conclusively, we are out of time. I said, and I will insist, the federal constitution in Cameroon, which maintained the two assemblies, you should accept that it maintains the two assemblies who were created immediately after 1st October.
No, that federal
so we should know that.
Not a united.
Then where was the issue of a bicameral assembly? Where were they stated? Where was no bicameral? We should not be arguing a lot of things.
We are out of time.
French Republic constitution.
Dr. Ako.
It was only adopted by the parliament.
Dr. Ako, thank you.
So,
Doctor, conclusively, we are out of time.
Yes, Cameroonians should learn that Cameroon remains a multilateral nation. Cameroon should remain a bijural state. Barrister Achu will confirm that within us there are some differences. Yes, bicultural, whatsoever, multicultural. A lot of cultural groupings in Cameroon. We have to move within. And I said, give us the reason why we are here. I have asked the government in Yaoundé several times, give Anglophone Cameroonians the reason being part of this institution. Article 68 can be coined. We can use it
Maybe
as
we can look at it next,
we can get
next
it.
week. Or can
Even
look at
in
it.
court, why not take a case?
Yes,
because when
68, because that's a key issue.
The word repugnant
yes.
means that those institutions which are not causing any harm to the present institution should continue existing. So if we are claiming that a house of chiefs local government should instead exist instead of decentralized collectivity. A lot of that.
I'm sure we're out of time. No. We're out of time. We're out of time. We're out of time. Thank you, Siseko. Thank you, Siseko, Ayonta, doctor, for coming.
Thanks for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me.
Because we're out of time. Of course, thank you, Barrister Aku, John Aku, for coming. We're out of time.
We're together.
Of course, thank you, Siseko, Ashu, Senior Barrister Ashu Julius, for coming. Ashu Emmanuel.
Call me Julius again, sir.
Ashu Emmanuel for coming. Thank you, Siseko.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm sure Dr. Ayong Tah raised a key issue. Next week or a week after, we will have to look at this 68, what is repugnant in it and what is not repugnant in it, so that we can hold on and know that, okay, this is what we are holding on, because this is something that we must educate our brothers and sisters from the Northwest to understand the 68, because a lot of people don't know 68, and we should know that. I'm sure we will have legal minds to talk about that 68 subsequently. What matters is your matter. Thanks for watching, and goodbye from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala.